Welcome, Warriors, to another exciting episode of Chevrons, a podcast for the enlisted force. Today, we've assembled a panel of first sergeants. We're going to dig deep into the career field, what it's all about, and get their advice for anyone who might be considering moving into a challenging but equally rewarding career as a first sergeant. In addition to our panel of shirts, we've also got a wing command chief to provide top leadership perspective on this very special duty. With that said, my first question to all of you, starting with you, Chief, so let me get your rank, name, and what you would consider your primary career field outside of the First Sergeant or Command Chief Corps. We're looking for a little bit of background. So what's your military story, Chief?
Oh, thanks, Tim. Thanks for having us here today. Chief Master Sergeant Chris Hurl. I'm the Command Chief of the 102nd Intelligence Wing. I've been in the Air National Guard for a long time now. I started off in the avionics career field on the F-15s and worked my way through all of the avionics shops. And then when our planes moved out west and we became an intelligence wing, I became a geospatial analyst, an imagery analyst, and I worked my way up through the intelligence group before becoming the command chief.
Great. Sergeant D'Angelo.
How's it going? Master Sergeant D'Angelo. Here from the 102nd ISRG, 102nd ISS. My story was originally with the Air Operations Group. Eventually I went over to the 202nd Cyber Intel Group before I landed over in civil engineering with Master Sergeant Townsend. After that, I became a shirt, and now I'm here.
Hi, everyone. This is Master Sergeant Shelby Rice, and I am a First Sergeant of the 101 IS, and I was a 101 imagery analyst prior to being a First Shirt. And then before First Shirt, I was an additional duty First Sergeant as well. My military story is pretty quick. I was born and raised in the 101 IS, and I still remain here 14 years later. So that's it.
Awesome.
Hey, Tim, this is Master Sergeant Bradford Townsend. Currently, I am the 102nd MSG Mission Support Group First Sergeant. And I came over from CE. I was the Structures Shop Supervisor. And then prior to that, I was in Mobilcom at the 101st Air Control Squadron and then to the 267 Combat Communication Squadron.
Excellent. So a question to all of you, and then we're going to continue to go around the horn in the same order. How did you see first sergeants early in your career when you first joined? What was your impression of them? Did you see them as disciplinarians, as mentors? Were they accessible, or were they far out of reach? How have your impressions changed over time?
Well, I've always seen the first sergeants as somebody you could talk to if you needed any kind of help or advice. They've always been very accessible as far as I'm concerned, and good people to talk to and good people to help you be supported. And then since I've been in any kind of leadership role, I found the first sergeants to be pivotal to the success of any organization. You've heard me talk about the triad before. I really believe in that, and it's kind of the commander, the senior enlisted leader, and the first sergeant, and they all kind of cover each other's gaps. Everybody has gaps, right? And together, the three of them can make a really strong team. And for me, that's always been a strong point of my leadership skill, right, is to try to make that a strong team and keep that. I find it very helpful.
So when I first joined in the AOG, it was a bunch of us young kids, and I would say I was very rough around the edges, kind of a troublemaker. But there was a lot of us young 20, 21-year-old kids. And our first sergeant, I'm not going to say any names, but she was very positive. We had a very officer-oriented group. So we had a ton of fun. So a lot of morale events and stuff going on. So she was very present. I always saw her around. She was in all the workspaces. She was engaging with people. But I think back then I didn't really even know what a first sergeant was. I didn't realize the magnitude and kind of what responsibility she had. I just knew that she was there and she was taking care of people and she would check in. And I didn't really want to talk about anything anyways, but she was kind of like herding us around, kind of call it like herding cats.
Oh, sure.
We're just doing our own thing, no guidance, and she'd go around in the hallway and, herd the cats. I really respected her, and I think now that I look at it, back in the day, what she was doing for us, I mean, I would say that was more impactful by not even realizing the importance. And then, I've had some along the way where the first sergeant's roles and responsibilities seemed like we were doing, drug testing and stuff like that, where like that was the highlight of it. And, their personality was kind of hindered due to some clerical things we had to take care of. So I didn't really get to see that piece from a different one. But, early on, I didn't really get to see the importance, but the later that I get into this game, the more I try to emulate off of my first one to be as reachable as possible, because it's real people with real issues. So I'm hoping that, the further I get, I could be seen in the hallway and checking in on people, and somebody feels like they can just come talk to me,
Excellent. Sergeant Rice.
Yeah, I think similarly to Sergeant D'Angelo, as an airman, I was a good airman. So, for the most part. So I remember seeing first sergeants around the unit, especially as a DSG and during drills, and noticed they had a little diamond on their rank, and I just thought it was really cool because I knew they were important. And it was always kind of someone to look up to, and they always had that positive vibe and kind of like the openness to talk. And throughout the years, it's kind of gone up and down as far as first sergeants being accessible. However, I think I'm in this job because of mentors prior to me becoming a first shirt, specifically the 101 IS shirt. Now that we have an AGR position, she was more accessible and prevalent in kind of how I handled situations as an NCO, and offered me a lot of perspective. So if it wasn't her mentorship and also me becoming her additional duty, I think I don't really know where I'd be. So,
Sergeant Townsend.
So my first experience with a first sergeant was in tech school down in Mississippi, and it was a good experience. I walked into the office, and he had sandbags set up in his office, and he had camouflage all over the place, and of course he had a dish of candy, which was very, very important. And we had a really good conversation, and from that point forward, I decided I wanted to be a first sergeant someday. It's just, this is what I want to do. And then I get to my first duty station, and you were there at the 101st, and
right.
Master Sergeant Ron Darling, he probably stood at 6'2", 6'3", real old school kind of first sergeant. I mean, he could have been cast in a Mark Wahlberg movie,
Gravelly voice.
Yes. And it was, you wanted to emulate this guy. You wanted to be, Sergeant Darling. Then I came here to the wing, and I've had some really good experiences with a lot of first sergeants. And then, from me being a first sergeant, and I go back to what I've told some of my peers and some of the people that used to work for me when I was a supervisor. I would say, take the person that you want to emulate and emulate that person. Take all of their good qualities, but also look at all of their bad qualities and change. What would you change, and how would you change it? So that's kind of how I approach it and how I do things.
Sure. Question 3, and we're going to go skip right over to Sergeant D'Angelo, because Chief, you were never a first sergeant, were you?
I mean, I've never been a shirt, but as the wing command chief, I am the functional manager for the wing shirts.
Sure.
It's my job to help advise and guide the first sergeant team and try to help make that be the best team that we possibly can. Provide them with commander's intent. I try to forecast the manpower, lead selection boards, but it's all based around team building, right? And then track their training, and I kind of work with the first sergeant FAM whenever I need to. So I am heavily involved with the first sergeants.
Sure. So my question to Sergeant D'Angelo, When did you realize you wanted to pursue becoming a first sergeant? Was it right from the start, or did you eventually come to the conclusion over time? Give us a timeline in your career. When did that switch get flipped?
It wasn't from the start. I can say it was pretty selfish from the start. I merely joined just to get the educational benefits and to try and get to my next step. I was recruited with a pretty nice, signing bonus and student loan repayment and all that stuff, and I had zero desire to even join the military. But thanks to Chief Degnan, who was my best friend's mother at that time, she knew once I got in that it was going to change everything. But, you're 19, 20 years old. You're just like, hey, I'm trying to get paid. So, fast forward 13 years, I was deploying. I deployed with Sergeant Townsend, and I knew I was going to miss the birth of my first child. And I was in a pretty bad place. Didn't want to go, but reality started to set in. I was at phase 4 or 5 of the grieving cycle. I started to accept that I wasn't going to change this, and that was my worst nightmare. Is you wait your entire life to have a kid, and she was born 3 days after I left. So we were sitting in Germany, trying not to sulk in my own misery, but I had a good supporting cast with me, and I find out that there's like 4 or 5 other airmen who are younger than me in the same boat. So I'm looking in the mirror, I'm like, crap. All right, you can be one of two things. You could be like a whiny little whatever, or you can decide that this is your reality and they're kind of looking at you because now you're a master sergeant. It's time to lead by example. So I took that on, and then we finally get overseas, and I'm starting to use helping people as a distraction tool for my own little personal value. So I'm just taking on things to kind of help people out and sort their lives out. And it was a way of kind of coping with my inner pain.
Sure.
And it made the 6-7 months go by really fast, to where wow, it's the end. I enjoyed it. So I think that was the first time in my military career that it was really serving people helped me. Whereas throughout the path, I was kind of self-serving and, getting frustrated with my happiness in the military. So you get back and you're kind of on fire. You got a 6-pack and jawline's back and you're ready to go. And you're like, oh, as soon as we get back, they're like, oh, we're looking for first sergeants. I'm like, all right, sign me up.
That's awesome. It sounds like, one of the consistent themes in this career field is how rewarding it is. And it sounds like that is what the bug that caught you first.
It is. And I didn't have a choice. But if you give people a choice on base, it's like, oh, do you want to sacrifice your time and your energy and your emotions and your days off and your phone calls and your family time to help other people? You ask any sane person who isn't in a bad place, they're going to say no. But I was reading the other day, we were talking about one of the best things to somebody who's grieving loss or going through a traumatic event is to distract them by helping people. So you often see that sometimes people who get through the grieving process of this is by helping other people in need. So sometimes you don't realize it's exactly what you need until you're in a bad spot. So, you'll see later on in the segment, we're going to say, well, why do you want to do this? Try to get other people to do this. I don't think you realize how important it is for you to kind of take this on for your own personal growth.
Great. Sergeant Rice, when did you want to become a first sergeant?
So I never had this goal in mind to become a first sergeant. I never really thought it was an option, or it wasn't really in the forefront. Originally, I was a DSG for half my career, and I was just going to, join the military, get my degree, and get out. Clearly, 14 years later, I got the degree, but I'm still in. So, and then eventually came on orders to work the mobilization, and applied for an AGR job. And then I realized, okay, this is going to be my career. So as soon as I became an AGR, I had to think about what my goals were. And like previously mentioned, the first sergeant, that helped me kind of, just be a better NCO and kind of honestly just be my therapist in a way. I realized a lot of the the different opportunities that a first sergeant is able to do outside of being an intel analyst, which I wasn't super passionate about that job. But so that's kind of why I steered more towards helping people. So I applied to be that first sergeant's additional duty, and I got the job. And I did that for 2 years, and I did a lot of things. I saw a lot of things, and I realized the weight of the position as a first sergeant. And so it was super beneficial, a lot of eye-opening experiences, perspectives, and just overall, like, understanding, like, what people are going through in life and not inside the workplace is pretty eye-opening because not a lot of people talk about it. So I liked having the aspect of caring for people and helping people find solutions to their problems and just being there for them. So when it came to my job coming out and putting in for it, I definitely hesitated to be a diamond wearing first shirt because my time as an additional duty, I realized the weight and the responsibility and the time that it took to be an awesome first sergeant. So at the time I had 2 kids, dual military. So I really had to kind of talk with my family and see if it was the best for us. And because I knew if I was going to put in for it, then I was going to go all in. So I really needed my family support for that. And thankfully I got that, put in for it and was selected. And I can't imagine doing anything else.
That's awesome. Sergeant Townsend.
So I previously stated that, when I was in tech school back in 1994, a long time ago, that I wanted to be a first sergeant. Then I had a large break in service. It was 15 years.
Yeah.
And I came back in. I was 45 years old, and I was restarting my career. I came back in as a staff sergeant. And then I lined myself up to make sure that I could get promoted on time and do everything that I needed to do. And I became the shop supervisor of structures. And like Anthony was saying, we deployed to Africa together. And like him, you're working with these people in the shop, and you're kind of doing that first shirt, that first line, first shirt kind of job before it goes to the actual first shirt. And I really enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed helping people at that level as opposed to the customer service level that we typically do in CE, right? Sure. So at the time that we came home, there was an opening in CE for a first sergeant, so I applied because I really wanted to stay in CE. And I didn't get it. Master Sergeant Kerrigan got it. And I was very happy that he got it. But on the same point, I was disappointed in myself because I didn't do very well in the interview, and then I just, okay, that's it. That was it. That was it.
You threw the towel in?
Yeah. Well, I didn't really throw the towel in. I just okay, maybe first sergeant isn't for me or whatever. But then the MSG first shirt position opened up, and I was approached by a few people saying that I should apply. So this time I took it very seriously, like I should have in the first place. Yeah. And I studied, and I got to know the position, and I did very well in the interview, and I got the job, and I'm very pleased.
And here we are.
Yeah, and here we are.
That's great. So the fourth question I had for you guys, I think you kind of maybe already covered it in the last question. But I'll ask it anyways, and you can let me know if you want to add on to your answers. What was the catalyst for making the move when you did? What drove your decision?
Yeah, I definitely wanted to touch on this to kind of piggyback off Brad's story because we all got back. We all kind of wanted to be first sergeants. So what happened was there was a vacancy, and we knew that CE was going to be open. There was a vacancy for a first sergeant, so everybody that I knew was putting in for the CE first sergeant. That's what my application was. It was quite clear. I didn't realize that there was an ISRG, the ISS first sergeant, so I thought I was interviewing for CE. That CE interview apparently, or the vacancy, got pushed back another month. So I was interviewing for a couple different first sergeant vacancies. So when I found out, I was like, I'm going to CE. and I'm going to say no. CE's where I belong. Just spent 7 months of my life with these people overcoming stuff. And a couple of people here on base advised me, they're like, listen, man, you want to go to CE because you're comfortable there. But I'm telling you, you need to stay uncomfortable. And, I'm like, I don't even know what the ISS is. I don't want to be over at Intel. I'm not going to be able to communicate with them. I'm very different than some of these kids. And, I see them walking around and they're smart and I don't know half the words they're even saying. So I go to an interview with the commander at the time, and I was dead set on saying I'm going to wait till next month for CE. But I knew there was no guarantees. So going up against, Sergeant Townsend and Sergeant Kerrigan, who, can carry their own and have many different qualities that I'm like, I don't know if I can guarantee this win here. So I'm like, I need to keep an open mind because if I want to be a first sergeant, I got to take it now. So I walk over to the ISRG, and there's cold brew freaking on tap and people walking around all happy and
Cold brew coffee.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to clarify for the audience.
Yeah, and I'm walking around, and the environment is very pleasant. I was surprised because I haven't really been in there. And I'm like, all right. Well, I want to be keeping an open mind, and I sit with the colonel at the time, and I kind of go through the questions, and he puts it right on me. It's like a now or never type thing, and we already did like the tour and this and that. I'm like, crap. I'm like, I feel like this is the right choice, so I took it, and it's been awesome. So to answer your question, it's like the catalyst to make the move that I did was that I knew I needed to be uncomfortable. I made a very uncomfortable decision to leave what I thought was home, and I found a second one, and I've had a blast there the last couple of years. Some of their issues to me weren't some issues that I'm used to solving, but seeing, different people with different walks of life with different types of issues and trying to help them navigate it has been awesome for me. That was kind of the catalyst, is knowing that like I need to do something different.
Sergeant Rice.
Yeah, and I can kind of pick off exactly what Sergeant D'Angelo was saying as far as being comfortable in the uncomfortable, because I think a lot of the times we all get comfortable. We kind of go with, what we know is a safe decision based on, whatever it may be. And I think it's very difficult to kind of, step into that fear, even though you may want it, and just kind of accept it and embrace it and go for it. So when it came to making the move, I kind of spoke on it before. I think it was just kind of knowing that I wanted to do something different and make a larger impact on a different level. And this position I knew for sure would allow me to do that. So, it's been awesome.
Awesome. Sergeant Townsend.
Yeah, I think definitely that catalyst was that deployment to Africa. Working with Anthony, there were some problems, and we worked through them. Anthony's a natural. I consider him one of my mentors, especially over there. He was in a good position because he was in the what would you call it, the head shed or the
Yeah, we were in the leadership tent, so we always had coffee. Our uniforms weren't very dirty, so
yeah. It was difficult to get him out in the field, but we got him out in the field. We got him working
every once in a while.
Great.
Yeah. No, but it was the people problem. So people problem solving was definitely. I keyed in on that, and I really enjoyed it. For the good and for the bad, for both. And then coming back and having my peers and my mentors believing in me and pushing me to step outside of my comfort zone, and
It was validation for what you were feeling already.
yes, yeah, take the big step, because MSG that's a big step.
A lot of moving parts over there.
Yes, there's lots of different triads. So, yeah.
Yeah, so like having witnessed, Brad over there was very interesting because usually the shop supervisors, a master sergeant, this one master sergeant in the shop, but they had 3. So Brad was the shop supervisor, and they kind of divided the structure shop up into like 2 areas with 2 different master sergeants. So Brad was more of like a personnelist. So with all of the issues with some of the younger airmen that would come in, you know, Brad was the one that kind of had to keep the ship running, because these personnel issues got out of control, then the productivity of his shop went down. So I got to see Brad like really putting out fires all the time. And, you know, he had a different take over there than I did necessarily, because mine was more of like a, you know, trying to like take care of people, do fun stuff, you know, kind of be like mama bear. And Brad was like putting out some serious, like, you know, drama.
Yeah. Anthony was the unofficial first sergeant of CE, I think. I think you were.
I was just ordering coins and shirts. It wasn't.
You guys are so sweet. Look
It was.
at you.
It wasn't much, but it's honest work, you know.
Sure.
Yeah, but you were doing your thing, and like you were saying before, it was keeping you busy.
Yeah.
Hug it out.
Yeah. Look at that.
So that kind of leads me into my next question. As Sergeant Townsend had pointed out about mentors, did you guys seek out a mentor, somebody who had already done what you wanted to do now, a current or former first sergeant or senior enlisted leader? Was there anybody who guided you through the process, either in the decision making or in the actual nuts and bolts of getting through the academy and all that?
I went into everything blind, actually, until I got over to the ISRG, and you know, having Sergeant Rice and you know, Lindsay was over there. I got to see, you know, how to really get the job done. They really had the intangibles that I didn't have, and they were kind of established. So, you know, I have my own personality, but I got to see what worked for them. So I kind of got my mentorship through being around those 2 who were doing very well, had the respect of their peers, were able to communicate with people in many different ranks. And it was really good for me, because I got to take what I had and then develop into something better. So, yeah.
Said Rice.
Yeah, I've been pretty lucky as far as mentors over the past several years. I think the biggest one over the past few years, even as additional duty and then as acting shirt and then now as a diamond wearing shirt, my commander has been an amazing influence when it comes to how to operate and how to work within the triad. Currently, I've had 2 different cells that operate differently, but like Chief Hurl mentioned, the triad is such a huge role when it comes to first sergeants and leadership and the morale of your squadron. So if the 3 of you guys aren't connected and on the same page, and it's okay not to be on the same page, but as long as everybody else thinks you're on the same page, then you're doing it right. But kind of just being there for each other to bounce off ideas and kind of, you know, give that advisement has been super important, and kind of just learning how to be a senior NCO as well. So I'm super grateful for the chiefs and the senior NCOs in my squadron, and especially my commander.
Right. Sergeant Townsend, let's talk about mentorship.
Yes.
Have somebody guiding your way.
Yes. So after that failed attempt at first sergeant in CE, I was still the shop supervisor, and I'm 51 years old at the time, and I'm looking at the rest of my, career, which would be short at that point. So I decided I talked to Chief Ahasey, and I sought him out. I said, "Hey, I need a mentor. Are you taking on any new clients?" And he opened the door with a smile, and he brought me in, and we had a really good conversation, and he pointed me in the right direction, and ever since we've been pretty tight, and yeah, he's helped me along the way.
That's
because
great.
he was a CE first sergeant, and then he was MSG first sergeant. And
So he knew the path.
He did know the path.
That's great.
Yes.
It's good to have educated, obviously mentors are great, but having someone in your corner that's already walked the path you were walking
Yes,
is a big help.
yes, definitely. And he's very well spoken and very even keeled. So it's good.
Excellent. So, probably one of the most important intangibles of being a first sergeant is presenting a model image of what an airman should be. How challenging is it to lead the way by being the example in dress and appearance, fitness standards, leadership skills, exceeding the example of what it means to be an airman? Is that a challenge for anybody?
I would say at this point, I mean, it's kind of expected. I don't think, meeting the standards itself is too hard, to, wear your uniform right, to kind of have that whole airman concept, take care of yourself, take care of your mind, emotions, your body. I wouldn't say that it's, not too hard, because it can be harder for some people, but for us, it's like, I really care about how I'm coming across to other people, and
Sure.
I think it's tough to lead somebody else if you can't even lead yourself.
Right.
So I hold myself to that standard, whether it's the military or not. But if you're hoping to be somebody that's gonna, be somebody that's gonna take them out of one of their toughest spots. I mean, someone's going to buy into your message. You got to have a certain level of salt to yourself.
Sure.
If you're going to expect somebody to follow you, I mean, I know for me at my other place of work as a police officer, some of the best leaders are the ones that, you've got to see in action. We call them squared away. So, I mean, for me, I think it's super important. I take it very seriously, and I know, people are judging me on that aspect. It's like, who am I to say, hey, you should probably get your hair squared away if I'm walking in with my hair hanging over my ears, or disciplining somebody or having a difficult conversation about a PT test if I can't do well on PT. Not that I'm going to judge anybody based on where they're at, but you're expecting me to hold the line. I better be well up above that line. And it helps keep me in check, because I know, like, if it's, we're getting into the winter seasons and all those nice little treats are coming out, and if I start getting crazy, my belly's going to be hanging over, and then all of a sudden I'm going to be coming in looking all nasty, and I gotta make sure I'm minding my P's and Q's because somebody's watching me, so.
Yeah, I think that's the thing as leaders that sometimes we forget, or even just, as airmen, that we are always being watched on, like, how we operate, what we say, what we do. Sometimes I think it's lost because, we're humans at the end of the day, but I don't find it challenging to exceed those standards. I kind of just find it motivating, mostly because I want to be a credible leader and a credible airman. So if I am, trying to mentor others and I'm saying you should do this, you should do that, and I'm not holding myself accountable, then why would I expect anyone to listen to me at the same time? So I think, throughout the careers, we've had leaders that have probably seemed hypocritical because they tell us one thing and do another. And I've kind of learned from that. So if I'm saying one thing and expecting something from an airman, I'm going to do the same.
Sorry,
I think the statement "lead by example" takes on a whole new level when you're the first sergeant. It's as soon as you put that diamond on, it's a definite, 100%. For me, it started when I was a shop supervisor. You want to be there for your people, for your peers, and I've always tried to dress for the interview, right?
Sure.
Every day, dress for the interview. Put your pants on if you're doing a teleconference, right? Look sharp, because if you look sharp, then you're going to feel sharp, and you'll be squared, like Anthony said, you'll be squared away.
I had an old supervisor who used to say, "Look good, feel good, am good."
Yes, yeah.
Like,
So
what are you
I mean,
talking about?
The physical fitness portion of it, I mean, for me, it's very important as an older guy. I've been studying longevity for the last couple of years, listening to a lot of podcasts and doing a lot of reading and trying to make a lot of the right decisions. So
Excellent.
it's important. It's very, very important to stay healthy for yourself and for your family and for your peers, for your airmen.
So let's move on and go to talk about the school a little bit. Since the specific steps to becoming a first sergeant kind of differ between the different services and components, let's focus on the process once you get selected. What was each of your first sergeant academy experiences like? What was your most prominent takeaway? And maybe what was the more challenging aspects of the school for you?
We had, I think it was up to a year to go, but I think you had to put in a application relatively soon. The school in Alabama is just under 30 days. We actually got to stay in this like 5-star hotel overlooking like the riverfront. And so you're getting down there as a bellhop and like, hey, sir, take your bags. And I'm like, touch my bags. So we were off to a good start. Took an elevator up to like the 17th floor or whatever, overlooking everything and this nice suite. And then realized that the entire academy is there as well. So we get there and the schoolhouse is super organized. You talk about getting like re-blued. Everything there is to make you feel like you're a part of something big, bigger than yourself. So they have a bunch of little classes built up in there. I think there's like 10 to 12 master sergeants in the class. And you really get to know them fast. It's a lot of like team building exercises that go on. Kind of long days, but they don't waste any time. So your instructor is usually a senior master sergeant, like an Air Force, active duty first sergeant, or if not, a Guard Reserve. But they're all really skilled and have a ton of experience. So I remember we just, the whole class were just bonding, talking about dumb stuff, laughing, joking around. The topics come up. We're just all having a blast, but it's a really good learning environment. I remember being in there because, I'm a police officer in the outside, and we ended up having like 3 other cops in there. So we're having a good time, bunch of inside jokes. And here we are a year and some change later, and my group chat is still blowing up. I have to keep it on mute because we still talk all the time.
That's great.
So, one of my top 3 Air Force experiences was going down there. Tremendous barbecue. We had a blast. There's a ton of stuff to do. If you're looking to get re-blued, it's definitely a great academy to have on your resume. So
that's Maxwell Air Force Base?
Yep.
Yeah, it's only, like Sergeant D'Angelo said, a 4-week school. I think a lot of people are scared about applying because they're like, I don't know how long the academy is. It's only 4 weeks. It goes by so fast.
Yep. Very, very fast.
Very fast, and they utilize your time efficiently, so there's not a lot of downtime. You're learning so many different things, and kind of just like, it's almost like a refresh of a little bit of a refresh of what you learned, whether in tech school or basic, when it comes to just the basics that we kind of forget about. So I think my most challenging thing, it was great, just like D'Angelo said, I still talk to a couple of the shirts from my class, and I use them as mentors and just peers to kind of bounce off things. And they have different perspectives, and it's kind of just amazing to have that core group, just like our first shirt council. But I went during like a peak of COVID, so half my academy I was virtual via my 5-star hotel room. However, it took away a little bit of the process of the school, but we were all still able to connect and kind of just talk about things that we've experienced already throughout our career, whether it was even our own personal struggles and kind of coming out from those and now being in a position for a first sergeant. So don't ever think, too, that, if you messed up as an airman, then you can't be a first sergeant. It's not a one-mistake Air Force. There's redemption. And, don't rule it out because of that. So
it's only a mistake if you get caught, right?
Sure.
Just kidding.
We had some people in there actually who had a Article 15 and stuff like that in the past, and that was kind of like the cool story, is that some of the guys who had some issues in the past were some of the best first sergeants.
Right.
They made a mistake as a young airman, they turned it around, and here they are as a master sergeant helping other people get through their ruts. So
you fall on your face.
I noticed that with a lot of the folks in my class too. And my instructor had 2 Article 15s, active duty, senior master sergeant, probably one of the best first shirts out there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you fall
and
on
he
your face,
recovered.
and then you pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep moving. It's resilience.
That's it.
Exactly.
And learning from your mistakes. And
Yeah, he was able to recover from that. So I had the very unique opportunity to go to the senior academy just before going to the first year academy at the same location. And the difference was at the senior academy, everyone is coming from different career fields, and they go back to their different career fields. So you have the Air Force in common, but you don't really have that career field in common. And it was fantastic. But then you go to the first year academy, and everybody in that class is going to be a first shirt, right? So it's an instant bond, like you both were saying. It's instant bond. So you can feel a lot more free to say what's on your mind. You can feel a lot more comfortable because everybody in this room is going to be going through the same highs and lows as you are. You're right. And then, like Anthony was saying, in the hotels, they had us all stay together as a class in the same different blocks of hotels. So they kept the class together so that we could study together, we could check our homework, we could do carpooling back and forth. And the classes were very, very diverse. They purposely put reserve, guard, and active duty in all the different classes, right, from all different locations. So I went down there with somebody else from the 102nd, and we were not in the same class. And I'm sure that was by design to separate everybody, to put you in those classes. So they have a rotating component in charge per class. So when I was down there, it was the Air National Guard component that was the lead component for the whole class. So all of the leadership positions were tasked from the Guard folks, and then it would go to the reserve and then active duty. So they just
that's cool.
Yeah,
keeps it interesting.
Exactly. And then for me, I think the hardest part was the counseling sessions. It's a pressure cooker. Yeah. You know, you're in there. You have no idea what's coming through the door, and that's what being a first shirt's all about, right? You have no idea what's coming through the door. However, you're on camera, and the rest of the class is watching from the next room over, and you're being critiqued, and you want to make sure that you say the right answer because you don't want to have to do it over again.
All right.
So, for me, thinking on my feet can be difficult at times. So, yeah, it was tough. We got through it,
but not insurmountable.
Not insurmountable. No. Week 3 seemed insurmountable when it started, but once it was over, it was like, that was it?
Yep.
Yeah. It went by fast.
Excellent. So, Son D'Angelo, in the beginning of this panel, you mentioned being uncomfortable and as a reason for maybe looking for new challenges. In general, to really grow as an airman, you've got to force yourself out of your comfort zone. But what if your supervisor is your squadron or a group commander and your mentor is other first sergeants and or the command chief? What challenges does this present?
I think, as you're going through your military career, the higher ranking individuals before becoming a first sergeant tend to be out of reach or out of touch. I mean, there's no way in heck I'm going into a colonel's office and saying anything other than "Good morning, sir," or going to the chief's office. Not my jam. I don't want to talk to, anybody with brass on their shoulders. I'm looking to stay out of sight, out of mind. But you realize, as you get through your military career, we're all sitting there by the smoke pit or, in the chow hall talking about, man, if I had a seat at the table, this is what I do. If I did this, I do that. So you finally get in the position to where it's like, all right, you got 2 of the highest ranking people in the squadron opening up the door for you to give unsolicited advice, tactfully, to the climate, culture, and direction of the squadron. And then you realize that they're looking at you in a different light. Like, you're not that 22-year-old kid. Like, you're a grown man now. Right. And then you have the other airmen in the squadron, like, all right, I hope the shirt is looking out for our best interest too, because he's got a very big responsibility in having the ear of the cell and the colonel. You know what I mean? So, I think you have to be comfortable. Now is your chance, and the triad does a really good job of making sure that you feel valued. Because they will ask you questions and they will make sure that you're a part of that team. So it takes a little while. I mean, the public speaking piece does take some time, speaking your mind. But once the issues start coming in and you're realizing that all three of you are working towards making sure that this place is running as efficiently as possible, obviously mission first, people second. But by taking care of the mission and taking care of people, both succeed. And you realize that everybody's interested in the same thing. This is, winning here. You become valued, and it gets easier saying your piece. Because I'm not going to say anything unless it's, geared towards those two things. They know that that's where my heart is at. I know that that's where their heart is at. So it's easier to speak your piece.
Sunrise.
Yeah, and I think, for this position, I got promoted within the position. So I went from a tech to a first sergeant / senior NCO. So not only was I trying to learn being a first sergeant, but I was also learning on how to be a senior NCO, which both challenging as it is. So I relied on my commander and my cell at the time to kind of help me through those things that maybe I was lacking or just didn't know. And I think just being open helped a lot. And I think the biggest challenge was just, having that direct line to your commander and to your cell is just a different thing than I was used to as being a tech sergeant, one-on-one. So just being comfortable, and I'm naturally an introvert, regardless of people may see me as an extrovert. That is very false. So just kind of getting outside my comfort zone and being comfortable with the commander and the cell. It's gotten easier, and it's gotten easier to communicate whether there's issues going on or concerns within the squadron. But I think just the communication between those mentors will be insurmountable and invaluable as well. So I think it's just super important to have that relationship with those members. And yeah, you'll get there. You'll get comfortable because you kind of go through some things together. So you're both facing the challenges, and officers are people too. So
Sure.
Just like anybody else, we're human. People have lives outside of here. So it kind of just can humanize those leadership roles as well.
So Sergeant Townsend, you started right at the group level. So your boss was a colonel.
Yes.
And you had multiple units.
Yes.
Under you. So so same question. How is it getting out of your? Did you have any issues getting out of your comfort zone?
It's definitely challenging, but once you're in that position, all eyes are on you. But the good news is that you're not alone. You have other first sergeants to lean on, other first shirt councils to lean on, like the council that that Anthony was talking about, your class.
Sure.
Right. The same deal. We still talk and we still bounce problems off of each other. So that was the biggest thing for me. I was like, how am I going to do this? When am I going to know what to do? You're not alone.
Am I doing it right?
Right. Am I doing it right? And then, I've got a fantastic commander-in-chief, and then at the MSG level, but I also have fantastic commanders and chiefs at the squadron level as well. And it's challenging because there's all these different personalities. I don't have just one chief and one commander personality. I've got multiple personalities. So it's challenging, but it's doable. It's there.
What advice would you have for an airman looking to make the move to the First Sergeant Corps? What are some of the things you wish you knew before you started your own journey?
I would say just go with the flow. We set so many expectations on our life and what's next and how I want this whole thing to shake out. I had no idea that I was going to be here. And I've started to realize that once you just let life do its thing, as long as you're, doing the right things, setting yourself up, staying ambitious, the opportunities in your career will arise, and you'll know when it's time to take the next step. It might be a tech sergeant out there who is looking to make master, or looking for another opportunity. It might be a master who, is a 7 level and is kind of, either pigeonholed and getting to senior, or just looking to spice things up. Wherever you're at some point, this is going to present itself to you, and you're going to be questioning it. You're going to be thinking, well, is this for me? I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to do that. But you're going to be kind of stifled, and you need something to shake it up. This is probably the opportunity for you. I would be honest. Like I said to some masters and our squadron, there's only so many senior slots, right? So you can be the subject matter expert all you want. You're going up against 4 other master sergeants for that one senior slot. And one of the things that's going to differentiate between you and the other candidates is like your service to others. You were, as a first sergeant, you're going to be a part of the triad. You're going to be working on your leadership skills, working on your counseling skills. You'll be understanding the mission at a different level. So if you're looking to kind of take the next step and kind of grow as a person and as an airman, I would say that this is the best next step.
So, Rice, any advice for the next round of first sergeants?
I mean, if you're listening to this and it's piquing your interest, even at like a tiny bit, I would say either talk to Sergeant D'Angelo, myself, or Sergeant Townsend, your shirt, Chief Hurl. There's so many of us that can kind of give you like real talk. We're not gonna sugarcoat it. We can tell you how it is, what the expectations are. It's gonna be challenging, and if you're up for the challenge and something new, then this is definitely the position to kind of think about in your career. I think too, just knowing like if you do have like other shirts that you've seen and you're like, well, I'm not like them and I'm not like this person. I think it's just important to just be yourself. And I think if you come from a caring place and you're genuine with how you conduct yourself and you're, following the core values and all that, you'll be an excellent shirt. So don't be, overwhelmed by maybe not thinking you're going to be the best shirt, because it just comes down to doing the right thing and helping people. So talk to your shirt, talk to one of us. We have a lot of knowledge between the 4 of us. So, yeah.
Excellent. Sergeant Townsend.
I say go for it. Do it. Yeah, absolutely. It's very rewarding. It really is. It puts you in that position where you get to meet a lot of different people, And, at first I wanted to stay in CE, and I wanted to be the first shirt in CE, but it was probably the best thing for me is to get into a different squadron. I miss my people. Okay. I love it. I love CE. I go back and visit all the time, but you should put yourself into that uncomfortable position. Go to a different squadron. It's not that challenging because everyone's wearing the uniform,
Well, and you're gaining a new perspective, but you're also providing a new perspective to them.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
Excellent.
yeah, ask the questions. We're here.
So, Chief, I'm going to pull you back into the conversation. I've had you kind of dormant there for a while.
Thanks. I was feeling neglected.
So, do you all feel like the additional duty first sergeant program, i.e. the undershirt, is a good way of testing the waters to see if it's something that folks want to really commit to as an actual diamond wearer?
I think with today's limited resources, the additional duty first sergeants are play a critical role in the whole wing's well-being. The first sergeant job can be a 24/7 job if somebody is having a crisis that you can help them through at an off time, and some squadrons are only one deep, and then some don't even have a first sergeant. They just have additional duty first sergeants. So it's very important to help with the triad, to help be there to support your airmen. Additional duty first sergeants, they're afforded all the same privileges as diamond wearers, I believe it's a perfect way to transition into diamondhood, get that experience, and then bring it to the full diamond wearing.
Sergeant D'Angelo.
I would definitely agree, considering my additional duty was way better than I was. Master Sergeant Hannon, she was full-time out there, so she knew all the ins and outs on workplace culture and things that were going on, because, I mean, I'm only there part-time, so I get messages whenever something happens, like, hey, listen, you should probably, check into this, check into that, and then, I kind of get a good handover whenever I come into drill. But it's good because, like, as a male, to honestly say that I'm super approachable to everybody in the squadron is a fallacy, whereas, having a different person from a different walk of life gives you the ability to really reach everybody. It's like I told my squadron, and we had we're talking about, it was... suicide, like, awareness and stuff like that. And I said, there should be somebody in the squadron. Somebody here should be, anybody in here should have somebody that they can talk to or reach out to. And if you don't feel like there's somebody in the squadron that you can be honest, transparent with, and trust, we're failing you as a squadron. So it says, I may not be the person for you. I understand that. I'm a middle-aged cop. I'm over here communicating with 19-year-old brainiacs. You and I are not the same person. We don't speak the same language. I don't know what you're talking about. You could talk about this stuff all day. I don't know what you're talking about. But I understand a little bit about life, and you can trust that I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that you succeed here. But the additional duty first sergeant program is important because it helps develop more faces and people that you can trust to make sure that you're a valued member of the unit. So, having Sergeant Hannon there is she's completely the contrast to me. So, they're probably not going to talk to me about certain things. They'll talk to her. I do want to say, though, the additional duty first sergeant thing can be a double-edged sword for people who are on the fence, however, is you're not really going to have to jump in the pool if you get to enjoy the pool by, keeping your feet in there, but, hanging on the side of the pool. So some people get the benefits of becoming a first sergeant, but not actually having to do everything. So for people who are kind of content where they're at, they get to fulfill their desire to take care of people, but never having to fully do it. So that's what you're seeing. There's a lot of people who will commit to the additional duty, but not the full thing. So, which, a lot of our ad duties would have been awesome shirts. And that's kind of where it stinks, is that the turnover is every few years for us, and then you have these additional duties that, would have killed it, that are kind of, still in their career field. So, if you're on the fence about becoming a additional duty, I'm hoping that you just take the full plunge.
Sure. Sergeant Rice.
Yeah, so as far as additional duty first sergeant, that's kind of like where I dip my toes in, and I almost jumped back out, but I dove in for some reason. I don't regret it at all, but you definitely get exposed to a lot of what's happening in the squadron. You just gain so much perspective and just experience from that position. I've been lucky, and I've had 2 additional duties since I've been a shirt. And then my first additional duty, Sergeant Daniels, she's a DSG. I'm an AGR first sergeant, and she was amazing. And even when I went to the academy and was on maternity leave for my 3rd kid, she was able to come on orders and fill in for a little bit while I was away and really kind of gain that experience full time. So there's definitely opportunities out there. It's just a matter of setting yourself up for success and doing the right thing, and whether it's volunteering for the councils or being involved in suicide prevention training, facilitator, anything like that, talk to your shirt. Think they can kind of give you a roadmap on things that'll help you, whether it become an additional duty or a first sergeant.
Sergeant Townsend.
Yeah, I think the additional duty first sergeant program is very, very helpful. Like the chief was saying, I've got in the MSG, I've got a first shirt in CE. I've got one in security forces, but I have an additional duty in FSS, LRS, and COM, and they're rock stars. They're rock solid individuals who have been helping me out tremendously because I cannot be in six different places at once.
Be everywhere at once.
I can't. I can try. No, but they help out a lot. And as far as the class goes, after I took the class, the additional duty class, I recommend anyone who's a tech sergeant who wants to become a supervisor to take this course because it was very helpful. Like she was saying, it's eye opening, and it puts you into that position, and you can have that additional help. It helps you out in the squadron, and then you don't really have to commit fully to being a first shirt. You can,
and it's still fulfilling.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so we've talked about a lot of the great benefits and perks, but full transparency, what are some of the challenges of being a first sergeant? What keeps you all from sleeping well at night?
I would say that since you're a part of, the triad in the squadron, I mean, all successes and failures of leadership fall on you. So things go well in the squadron, everybody gets to enjoy that. But when things go bad, you kind of have to take ownership in that. And, if you really care, anything negative that happens in the squadron kind of weighs on you. So if you feel like you failed somebody, I know for me, like if I get the inkling that I failed somebody or I could have done a better job or there's a failure in leadership, that kind of weighs on me. The thing is like the difference between serving in the military and for me, like serving on the streets is that your customer base as a police officer, the stakeholders sometimes are the citizens, but you're really dealing with people that are in a bad place.
Sure.
To where you can kind of detach from whatever you're going through because it's circumstantial. They're going to court tomorrow. I don't care. I get home at night. I take my uniform off. I'm good. I reset. Here is different, though, where, like, if something bad happens to somebody here, sometimes bad stuff happens to good people. And that, to me, is like, if I couldn't prevent something from happening, to me, it's a failure of leadership on my part. That's my own ownership. If I couldn't see it coming down the pipe, if I didn't do enough background, enough research, if I didn't advocate early enough, if I didn't stop the airmen from doing this, I could have helped them. That to me is what kind of hurts me in all of this, especially all the stuff that's happened here. All of like the, I've had a lot of airmen that have had to be disciplined and stuff like that over things that, like, when you put it into perspective in the civilian world, for me, I'm dealing with, like, felonies and murders and whatever. And then you come here and then you have good people who make honest mistakes that wouldn't even be prosecutable on the outside. And seeing it turn the world upside down. You sit there and you try to give perspective and advice, but it really crushes you sometimes when you see people going through things and you don't have the answer that they're looking for. So that for me is like what kind of hurts me, but still shouldn't stop you from caring and driving you. And that's how I know I still care, is it's like the moments like that when, you couldn't change anything in that outcome, but you tried. And that desire to want to continue to change or money more than quarterback yourself, that for me is still pretty tough.
Sergeant Rice.
Yeah, so it's all that. There's so many good things about being a first sergeant, but there's definitely many challenges. I think for me, the largest challenge is just I have 180 people in my squadron, so really being able to connect with everyone. And I think my biggest fear that keeps me up is just not being able to do that and missing something. And then if there was anything to happen that someone couldn't take back, I think that's something that I think about all the time, which is, why I've done different efforts within our group as far as having a resiliency team and, constantly just speaking on, the stigma of mental health and talking about my own mental health and my own struggles with anxiety and postpartum depression, and just being vulnerable, even though it's difficult. I think just kind of talking about those types of just normal life stressors, I think helps a lot of people. And I know as long as I'm doing that, and at the end of the day, if I feel like I have done everything and I've covered all my bases, whether it's talking to our DPH, the chaplain, other resources, and knowing I'm doing everything I can for the members, then I sort of can sleep. But still, there's always just a worry there. So my spiel is just, if you're struggling, I promise you, you're not alone. There's so many of us going through things, and we just don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And even if people seem happy, that may not be the case. So please reach out to the resources, talk to your first shirt, what those are. We have awesome resources here. We have outside resources. So I think that's the biggest challenge, is just constantly worrying about everybody and being honestly a parent to a lot of people.
Sergeant Townsend.
Yeah, I'd like to dovetail off of what Sergeant Rice was saying, is being there, being present. It's with such a large group, with so many people in different buildings, it's challenging. Yeah. I think, what keeps me up at night or losing sleep is just not knowing, maybe not having the answers right away. It's, I like to be able to answer that question right away. Or
Right. Not everything has an answer.
Not everything has an answer.
Yeah.
Right. And another thing that's challenging is turning that judgment switch off. You have to be like, you can't, you have to work with everybody, right?
Right.
That's our job, right? You're handing out decorations, or you're dealing with somebody that's created a heinous action. You have to not be judgmental. You have to walk that person through all the steps.
Sure.
And be there for them, and be there for their family through, the good and the bad. It's challenging.
So given the challenges and the hurdles it took to get where you are, how rewarding is it to be a first sergeant? How does, and to circle back to the beginning of the panel, how does the job compare to what you saw it as in the very beginning of your career?
I would say that this helped me in many ways. I'm still, seeing how it's manifesting in my life. Kind of burnout on the outside, dealing with unsavory people, that you come in here and you're actually making a difference for good people. When you see climate and the morale and stuff improve in areas that you're in, you see people's lives starting to improve based off of some of the advice that you've given them. And it really helps you, realizing that these are real people, really good people. It's the esteem builder that I get when I leave drill. I actually really enjoy coming to drill now. For the longest time, it was kind of tough. But I come into drill and I enjoy it, because you walk around and you really get a chance to leave your mark. When I take it on the outside, whether I'm dealing with my family or I'm dealing with random people in the world, it's like Brad said, it's, no judging. Not having a judgmental agenda when you're talking to people, kind of just listening. Helped me become a better listener. As a first sergeant, you're always trying to have a game plan for somebody or a solution to a problem. I tend to like to be a problem solver, but sometimes people just want to talk to you, just slow things down. It's helped me in so many ways to realizing that, you know what, I don't even have a answer for you, but I'm going to let you vent for an hour. I might find something, I might not, but sometimes people are just looking for the outlet. And, being in the military and, having this position has definitely, helped me grow up some,
Sunrise.
Yeah, even all the challenges that all of us kind of face on probably the day-to-day with being a first shirt, it never will be enough to overcome the positive things and the influence that we have on the airmen. We're not supervisors to anybody. We're kind of just, we're outside of the chain of command. We float around, we talk to people, and understanding the impact that you can have on airmen, and eventually maybe they become a first sergeant, and they did because of you, is pretty powerful and impactful. I wouldn't take this opportunity back. I always kind of mentor people that I see have that kind of quality of caring for people and wanting to make a difference in this role. So I don't really see anything more rewarding. I may be biased, but this position is, honestly, you won't get anything like it.
Sergeant Townsend.
Yeah, I definitely find this position very, very rewarding. It's great to see people smiling, working hard, people sharing their stories with you, good and bad, and having that open dialogue. A lot of folks have said that it's a thankless job, and I kind of challenge that. I mean, there are times if you're upholding Air Force values, the Air Force is not going to come down and thank me.
Right.
But I walk away, I know that I did the right thing. But then you can also, you get thanks from a lot of folks. Thanks for talking to me. Thanks for coming to see me. Thanks for doing what you just did. I love it. It's great. It's definitely the better part of the job.
That's awesome. So we're going to wrap it up. But out to all of you, anything additional you'd like to add to the discussion, something we left on the table?
Sure. If you've listened to the podcast this long, I encourage you to take the plunge and become a first sergeant. As you've heard from the first sergeants that are here and the rest of our first sergeant team, the first sergeants in this wing are some of the best all-around airmen that I've ever had the privilege to serve with. And we're always looking for those willing to get out of their comfort zone to explore new opportunities and help us keep the first sergeant team strong. So please consider joining our team. I think you'll find it very rewarding.
What Chief said.
Awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Tim, very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tim.
Appreciate you all coming out. So let's wrap it up. It's been a great panel, and I want to thank each of you for your dedication to service, duty, and your fellow airmen. What you do is important, and as has been previously mentioned, it's as rewarding as it is challenging. So to all of you listening, if you have any questions for the Chevron staff or any of our guests, please feel free to reach out to chevronspodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's chevronspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks, and that's a wrap.